I had planned my wedding and I cancelled everything because I thought, why would he want to be with me? But he said, you're not your illness. And when he said that, my God, the, the floodgates opened. And I mean, I thought, this man is really accepting me for who I am. And that's just it. The most important thing is to accept yourself for who you are. You still are that person, even though you're a little bit quirky and you've got a few things that you need to deal with. You're still the same person. And, I'd never, ever, ever let anyone say that MS has taken over my life. It hasn't, and it never will. My diagnosis all happened in the winter of 2010. I was working as a community nurse in the East End of London. Quite a demanding job. And to my knowledge, I was good at what I did. I was kind of quite highly regarded, and I'd been doing the job for 20, 25 years. Obviously worked as a staff nurse first on a ward and then worked out in the community, but had a lot of responsibility, and it did put a lot of pressure on me. So yeah, when I was first diagnosed, the day before I had no symptoms whatsoever other than quite a stressful workload. But literally the following morning I woke up and I had virtually every symptom MS dishes out. I'd lost my sight. I could only see outlines of people and things. It was all black and white. I'd lost my balance. I had slurred speech. I was dribbling out of the left side of my mouth. I had left-sided weakness, and I was quite scared. Lots of things happened, and I not long started a relationship with who is now my husband, but at the time I had only met him in the summer. And I wasn't able to stand, I wasn't able to balance. I was very, very scared, and I actually didn't know what to do. I took the day off work and went to my GP. But there were lots of things that were going through my mind, as in I was ultra scared about it because I was a single mum. I thought, how am I going to cope? Will I ever work again? Just lots of things. What am I doing? How am I ever going to function? I've got children, two boys, and they were sort of 13 and 8. And just the practicalities of living, which would be like work, shopping, the school runs and everything. I was actually really scared. So yeah, the diagnosis, I went to my GP. Luckily, my husband was able to pay just over £200. I didn't have that money, but my husband paid it, and I actually had a private MRI and consultation with he was a neurologist at the local private hospital, because every time I saw somebody, literally 2 or 3 days later, I was seeing different neurologists, and they were saying, oh, you've had a stroke, you've got problems with your eyes. And I hadn't had a stroke, but at the time I just went with it because I didn't know. I had an MRI done. I saw neurologist. I call him Dr. C, but he was a very, very well-known hospital in one of the Romford hospitals that I've worked with even for maybe 20 years. So I had my trust in him anyway, but I saw him privately. And he said, do not let anyone tell you that you have had a stroke, because you haven't. This is the first onset of your MS. So that's kind of where it all began, really. I can't say it was easy. I will just say that it was one of the most, in fact, the most scariest thing I've ever had to face. So, The most challenging thing, I guess, was, well, the diagnosis was okay. It was really the symptoms that was the most challenging. Um, there was pressure to go on regular medication. I'm somebody who won't take a paracetamol for a headache. I would rather just sit it out. So to be given some kind of regular medication was like, no, thank you. But what was the most challenging was that because I wasn't on regular medication, I was in a cycle of being admitted to hospital for 4 or 5 days. Then I recouped at home for about a week. Then I went back to work for a week to 2 weeks, and I then relapsed. So this went on and on and on for best part of a year, of every month being sick poorly in hospital for a bit. I was given IV steroids, and I needed something that regulated my MS and sort of stabilized it, really. Um, I found that really challenging because in my mind, it was telling me that I needed to be a nurse and I need to go and do my job and I needed to be a mum and I needed to, but I was in that hospital, so I needed someone to step up for me, and I knew that I wasn't there for my children. That was really, really, really hard because I felt like I wasn't performing properly, whether I was working hard or whether I was being a full-time mum the best I could, because I was a single mum at the time. So it was just very, very difficult. But um the thing, I guess, that was it was quite emotionally and physically challenging because I got something called brain fog, which made me really confused. I wasn't able to think straight. And for instance, I might want to put something in the microwave to cook it. And what will come out of my mouth, if I was saying, can you put that in the microwave and heat it up? What I will say is, can you put that in the fridge? And that's not what I wanted to say, but I either forgot what I wanted to say or said something completely different. But my mind was thinking microwave, and what came out of my mouth was fridge. And that was very, very scary because that was not the way I was. I mean, I class myself as, moderately educated, and to actually start talking nonsense and rubbish, well, what's going on? It just seemed a bit. Ooh. So yeah, I would say that one would be maybe the worst, really. I think I needed to sort of get myself together, and I suppose I needed to keep reminding myself, as the MS team kept saying, was don't overdo it. So where I'd be backwards and forwards, dropping my son off and going to work and going shopping before I pick the children up, then home, do the washing, do the cleaning, cook the dinner, do the homework. I had to say, do you know what? Weekend I'll do the washing. Weekend I'll bath the children. They're not gonna die because they haven't had a bath tonight. So, and children now, you learn that actually what is important is making sure that they're fed and watered and they're loved. And that was most probably the most challenging because I couldn't perform the things that I wanted to do. I think when I was first diagnosed, similar to like the last question, it was trying to have some kind of awareness of because see, MS is so different to the next person. So I did try lots and lots of coping skills, lots of coping mechanisms, and some of them worked, some of them didn't, and I had to find the right one for me. What worked for me was learning about my MS, not one that a doctor's told me or whatever, but learning about me and about how it affects me. That would be what I felt worked really for me the best, was to keep a diary. So things like if I did something different that didn't work, so make a note that did not work. make a note, maybe cooking, for instance, putting on the slow cooker in the morning before I went out to work, and then come back and the dinner was cooked when I got back. Little things. So I just had to serve it up. So I didn't have the hassle of having to think, oh, what we're going to cook. Oh, I've got to stand here for the next hour cooking a meal. It was about preparing and just kind of, I don't know, just knowing what works again for me, because so many people will have different experiences. I found what didn't work for me straight away, or this is maybe a, a bit difficult to say, but I went to some support groups. Now, the support I needed, I found within the team or the team, and also the patients I met. Start off with, because I was functioning, because I was working full time and I had the children, I found going to support groups with people that were a lot more disabled than what I was, I found that possibly emotionally pulling a little bit. I felt like I wanted to help these people, obviously because I was a nurse, and it did pull me down emotionally, because I thought, is this how I'm going to get? Now, over the time, I've realised that, again, not everybody with MS will be physically disabled. Not everybody with MS will be emotionally disabled. You know, just because someone can't walk, it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be able to walk. And that was quite helpful, because it kind of made me realise I'm not as bad as I could be. And the symptoms that I did have, I found the right process for me to accept it and to work with it, because the biggest thing is to work with it, not against it. Yeah, I didn't want the illness, but then who does put the hand up and say, yes, I would like to have MS, please? Nobody does. It's just saying, okay, well, this is what I've got and this is how I deal with it, and this is what's good for me. So that's kind of what helped me, is learning about myself. And this was not all done in a fortnight. This was over a period of weeks and months. Even the right medication was, it was finding the right medication for me, and knowing that drug was not good for me, that one was, and just balancing it. And it was also knowing that I live with my symptoms, and I need to help myself to try to deal with them. I did have some which were unbearable, and that's when I was relapsing, and that was when I was going into hospital. But they became few and far between once I was given, a big, like, major drug. And yeah, again, you learn. So you learn about you and about how it affects you as a person. Luckily, I finally have found myself, I'm on a good drug, and that was with a good support network, medical support network. I have a good GP who listens. My neurologist is my best friend. The MS nurses are very, very good at what they do. And the drug actually keeps me well. Now, it doesn't make me, what's the word? Miraculously buzzing, and you've got to think that I'm a 54-year-old woman. I've had this illness now for 14 years. So yeah, I'm not saying that I should be all singing or dancing, but I knew that it was keeping me from relapsing. It was keeping me as well as I possibly could. It was protecting the myelin inside my body. And you've got to accept that it is actually an illness, and it's a struggle, because I did have quite a lot. And if I'm honest, I did actually, when I was first diagnosed, was become quite depressed. I felt quite down, quite sad. What is going to become of me? What about, because working in the NHS was my life. So to actually be told that you won't be working with the NHS anymore, That was tough. That was really, really tough. I think also, I mean, all the way through my teenage years, all the way through my training and working as a full-time mum before all of the MS diagnosis, I was a trooper. I just kept going, and I had to go against the grain, and I had to learn that the best thing for me was sleep. Again, for me personally, if I was tired, keep going was not an option. Keep battling, keep doing this, no, I needed to rest. And that was the best treatment. It, and when I say time of the month, I'm not actually talking about female time of the month. I'm talking about time of the month due my treatment, because I have a treatment which is every 4 to 6 weeks. Originally it was 4 weeks, and I have an infusion, but now it's, since COVID, it's every 6 weeks, because it stopped me, or I didn't have to enter the hospital so much. It sort of extended it. So again, time of the month was more about when I'm due my treatment as opposed to, female time of the month. But when I refer to that, that's what I'm referring to. So when it was coming up to the time of the month for my treatment, I knew that I was getting tired. I knew that I needed to calm my life down, not meet people, friends in the evenings, not do anything too strenuous or too hard or too taxing on my brain, because that week before my treatment was murder. I really struggled in that last week. I still do. So, and I'm still on the drug 11 years later. So, I'm doing okay on it. So, and it's obviously listen to what your body's telling you as well, because if your body's telling you you need to rest, but you still keep fighting it, you're not just fighting your tiredness, you're fighting MS, and you're not allowing your body to rest. So I would say that most probably helped. And also the fact that my children are older, and they understand my illness. I've not kept it from them. I've explained about the illness, and as they've got older, I've explained a bit more about how my illness impacts on me and how I might appear to them sometimes. So, but between now, obviously my husband and my boys, who are now 28 and 23, they now understand greatly about my illness and about how it works. Oh, I'm good. I'm really good. I can't say I was at the beginning. I thought my life was over. I thought about even ending my life at some point at the very beginning, because I just couldn't handle it, to know that I was going to be working for the NHS until I was 126. And, I knew I would be working and working and working, and then suddenly told, actually, you can't do that anymore. You can't work anymore. You might need support with your family. You might need, and I'm just thinking, what on earth are you talking about? But I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with doing my full-time job. I couldn't cope with looking after the children. It was a big impact on me, for sure, for sure. But I took some antidepressants. I took some for approximately about 18 months. I didn't really want them, as you can imagine, because I actually worked in mental health. So to start taking antidepressants, it's like, me? Antidepressants? Don't be so silly. But you know what? All of us get hit by mental health problems. You don't, you're not chosen for it. And if you do have any form of mental health problems and you need help for it, again, you can't resist that. You have to accept that that's the treatment that you need to help you move on and to accept the situation that you're in. I have come off of them now because I needed that stopgap. I needed something to help me at that point, because it was such a major shock to my life, to my everything, to my system, to my life, to my family. my job, my whole everything, and to suddenly be said, well, actually, you can't do that job anymore. You actually aren't going to be particularly good with around your children anymore. That's how it felt. But there was light at the end of the tunnel. My mood did pick up. I felt good, and to the point where I said, do I need to be on these? I didn't sort of say, oh, because I know that when you're on antidepressants, just because your mood picks up doesn't mean that you don't need them anymore. You do need to stay on them. And I think that that's quite important to say, that if anyone does need antidepressants, it's not the end of the world. I had to face it, and that was not nice. But, after I got over the initial shock of having to take antidepressants and my mood picked up, um, I was able to live my life and actually accept that I've got this illness. And it wasn't the end of the world. It was just something I just lived with, like people with asthma or, you know, eczema. It's just something that you live with and you tolerate. And then obviously I came off the antidepressants. That was with medical advice. That was not something that I did myself, because I know, and I think it's important to say, that just stopping any medication, your mood can drop significantly. It needs to be titrated. It needs to be brought down slowly with professional advice. You can't just stop, because of obviously like the chemicals that are in your brain suddenly stop, they'll drop significantly, and then you'll be back to square one. So it was very important that I got medical advice to stop any medication, and especially the antidepressants. I think the most important thing is I did quite a lot of soul searching, and I found that I was still me. The most important thing for everyone to know about me was I was still me, although I had this illness which didn't really, which wasn't very good for me, but I dealt with it. I would I think the best advice I would give would be to explain it how it was explained to me, and I've embraced that. And it's about a plug. When a plug goes into a socket, for that light to come on at that socket, you need to have a good bulb, you need to have a good wire, you need to have a good plug, and you need to have a good circuit of electricity. Now, the way it was described to me is that wire that goes into the plug is frayed, and the protective cover, which was the wire, it was unable to carry out. So where I was wanting to do things and words weren't coming out of my mouth, and I wanted to pick something up and I dropped something, there were lots of different symptoms that I had, and it's because I didn't protect that wire. So, sparks were flying out of the plug, and the wire was all frayed, and, until you protect that wire with that electrical current, that's the bit that, I feel that you need to protect. And if you understand that was most probably the most important thing, was protecting that myelin, which means getting sleep, getting some decent nutritional food, taking the medication to stop the MS from developing anymore, stop the relapses. And obviously I needed to learn that the MS was about me and not about the person sitting next to me with MS. It was about how it affected me. And there were things. I think my issues were the confusion, saying funny words, tiredness, and the occasional loss of balance. Those were my four main things that I had. I can't say that they're completely gone, but they're ones that I'm very aware of, and I'm just very aware that if I start feeling a bit tired, I need to sleep. Find a way of sleeping. If I'm confused, stop, write down some things, and instead of maybe verbalizing it, write it down. And then, it's about how you learn to cope with your illness. That's again really important to me. I would say that the most important thing is to remember your identity, remember who you are, um, remember that you've not changed. You are still that person. And although you might not drink alcohol anymore because, it makes you feel tired and dizzy, it is learning that actually your illness is your illness. Not everybody will be the same as you. So learn about your illness, learn about how it affects you, learn about your symptoms and what best works for you. And to, even if it's just make a note just to you personally, to actually write down. I mean, I've got them in my bathroom, in my lounge, and by the bed. And it just says, remember who you are. You're strong, you're brave. And it's little things. And because that's me, that's who I am. So I do have these little notes around the place, which give me the sort of, the get up and go, because life goes on and I've not changed. I'm still me. I'm facing just a little bit more than what I was 15 years ago. So, and that's what makes me who I am now. And it's having an understanding that these hidden illnesses are there, even though you can't actually see them. There were people that were on the drug that I was on. So I was actually able to connect with them. We got talking about, I don't know, usual things, shopping and clothes and anything that is interesting to me and to them. And we eventually arranged to meet up. So it was nice because I do still meet with quite a few friends that I wouldn't have met with unless I had the illness. And we meet up for lunch. We don't do evenings because obviously, evenings is hard going because it's, if you're tired after a busy day. But we meet up for lunch, whether it's, on her day off or, a day that I'm free or whatever. And it's funny because when I'm talking about my illness, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Now, it doesn't mean that she's got all the same symptoms as me, but she knows exactly what I'm talking about. So when I said, oh, I was in and I talked a lot of rubbish about wanting this from the butchers and wanting that from the supermarket, and I ended up saying this when I was meant to say that. And, we have a laugh about it. And it's really, really good for the soul. It's really supportive. And not many people understand unless you're living it. Not many people understand what that actually means, because it's not going to kill you. It's just going to make your life a lot more difficult as life goes on. So as you get older and you get tired and you get grey hairs and you get, like, I don't know, stiff joints, you've got this as well, which is to add to all the other bits that you get getting older. So, it's not easy, but it's learning about yourself, and it's just trying to find the thing that helps you and makes you happy in your life and to keep them going. Um, Obviously there's the support groups. There are support groups pretty much everywhere around the country. And I know that I went to a couple, and obviously I have said that it wasn't right for me, and I've said that. But if you don't have anyone else, any other support, it could be beneficial. Um, Obviously, there is an MS helpline as well. I did use the MS Trust and the MS Society. You can get lots of documents from them as well. Depending on financial circumstances, you can get them for free. You can download them. You can get them sent to you. You can be part of your local MS team, MS group. That might do some social events. There's quite a lot. depending on which area you live in, there wasn't loads around where I lived, but guess what? I set one up. Yeah, I did. I just sort of, I don't know, just made up a group, because I knew I'd attended a couple of groups, but they were over the other side of the Thames. They were over in Kent. So I mean, it was a long drive. It was an hour and 15 minutes drive to go over to there. But I set one up locally there's about 5 of us. Yeah, there are people that are same as me. There are people that are wheelchair bound. There are people that slur their words. But I just accept them. They just accept me. And that's the most important thing, is knowing that, and getting people, and don't say, well, that's not me. Well, try it. Try it. You'll never know until you try it. So, MS is new to me, or well, it's not now, but was at the time. So if somebody has just been diagnosed with MS, then what have you got to lose? Try it. Contact these people, make contact, just see if you benefit from it. And you'll find things that you like, and you'll find things that you don't like I've done. So it'll be the same. I've not been a nurse for 12 years now. 12 years. I've been diagnosed with the illness for 14 years. But I'm still kind of caring. I'm still doing that job. I'm still doing what I wanted to do all my life. So, and I am a sociable, gregarious, loud person, but I'm still able to be that person. I'm still able to, because I'm still doing. I've not changed. I just have something that's causing me a little bit of distraction, I guess. I wouldn't have said that at the beginning, but that's what I would call it now. It's just something you live with, and I still go out and buy clothes. I still buy chocolate. I still go out and be me, be the mad woman, the party animal, the one that's up on the dance floor first thing. I wouldn't say that's with everybody, but I embraced my illness, and I did look at it and say, look, don't see it as a hurdle. Don't see it as something that's a dead end. It's just a hurdle that you have to get over. So it's accepting the illness, learning about the illness, your symptoms and your diagnosis, and your support network, and your things that you enjoy doing. Just because I like it doesn't mean to say that the next person. So it's about exploring you and what you're about. And I mean, there's a mantra that floats around everywhere on everything I see about MS, and that is, I've got MS. MS doesn't have me. And that is so true. You live with MS, but don't let it consume you. You still are the same person. You're just living with an illness. So, that's I would tell that to anybody, and that is something that I live my life by. It is important to own it, just to totally own it. What you read doesn't mean that you're going to suffer from it, but to be diagnosed with MS, you have some symptoms. So it's learning about your symptoms, learning what helps, learning what doesn't help, and keep a diary. I mean, I don't need a diary now because I know how I'm affected, but it's very, very difficult to actually read everything about MS, because it's the extreme, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be suffering from the extreme. Things will affect you. Things will make you feel sad that you've lost your life. It is a kind of bereavement, accepting that life's not going to be the same as what you thought it was going to be. But then life still can be really good, very good. I mean, I had planned my wedding and I cancelled everything because I thought, why would he want to be with me? But he said, you're not your illness. And when he said that, my God, the floodgates opened, and I mean, I thought, this man is really accepting me for who I am, and that's just it. The most important thing is to accept yourself for who you are. You still are that person, even though you're a little bit quirky and you've got a few things that you need to deal with. You're still the same person. And, I'd never, ever, ever let anyone say that MS has taken over my life. It hasn't, and it never will.